last week we got into the very beginning of the story of Noah, okay? The flood, okay? The very beginning of the story of Noah, it explains the angels coming down and fornicating or having relations with the daughters of men, okay? Um, and when they, had relations with the daughters of men, that's what created that the women birth what were called Nephilim. That was the offspring of the angels and of the women of men or the daughters of men. Okay. Um, with that being said, corruption um, grew rampant. Okay, in the world, and he said that he will not. Let me find it here real quick. He says, "My spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time." So he's saying, "Hey, it's about that time." Okay. Yep. So he's saying it's about that time. All right. So now we're going into it a little bit more. All right. Wait, I got a question. Yes. You said who came here? Angels. Yep. They left their post. Okay. They did a bond with each other saying that, hey, we said we're going to do this. We're going to make an oath with each other that everybody who's here with us is going to do this. Okay. And then they came down and yeah. Oh, they would not won't tell. They was like they knew. And the reason why they made that bond is because one of the main one was like, I don't want to bear this, because he knew he was going to be in trouble. I didn't want to bear this punishment by myself. And they all was like, okay, we swear. They made an oath. Okay. Crazy. Crazy. All right. So we're going to start with Genesis. All right. Chapter 6, verse 9 through 22. Okay. I'm going to read it in the New Living Translation, and then we're going to go through it the King James Version. Okay. Noah and the flood. All right. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on the earth at the time. He walked in close fellowship with Elohim. Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now Elohim saw the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. And Elohim observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. So Elohim said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout the interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the doors on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on the earth will die. But I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. And be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. So Noah did everything exactly as Elohim had commanded him. All right. Going back to Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. All right. Again, just like when we read through um, Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve was foretelling, okay, the future, okay. Primarily when they Adam and Eve and the serpent, primarily when Elohim gave them those curses, okay, saying that Eve, her desire is going to be given to her man. She's going to want to rule over her man, but the man is going to be rule over the household, right? Adam, since he adhered to his wife's voice, then he had to work and till the ground, okay, scratching, for a living, okay. Also with the female, he gave one of the curses for the female. He gave her that she was going to have pain in her labor, okay. And then he gave curses to the serpent, okay, saying that his seed will strike the heel of the seed of Eve, and her seed is going to heel is going to strike the head of his seed. Okay, so all of that was prophecy, just like Cain and Abel. Okay, Cain and Abel was prophecy of how things was going to be as far as the atonement, as far as the first fruits, but also being righteous, also being the son of the serpent by sinning and things of that nature. Okay, so all of that was prophecy of how the world is actually going to be and how we should look at things. Okay, and we got a little bit more into it a little bit further than that. So we're talking about Noah and the flood. So obviously, he's saying he's getting rid of all living flesh. So this is a day of Yahuwah, a day of they say day of the Lord, but the day of Yahuwah. This is when he's coming back. So this is a prophecy of looking at when he comes back the last time. Okay. So this is how we should be looking at it. Okay. All right. And I'll go to that scripture of why I say that. Okay. Because it is a specific scripture. All the other ones, you have to read and study to see that and to know that. But there's a scripture in the Bible where it says, in days, okay, it's going to be like the days of Noah. Okay. All right. So Genesis chapter 6, verse 9, King James Version. And it says, make the, oh, there we go. All right. King James Version. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with Elohim. Okay, we're going to go in here. The way I'm going to do it is we're going to look at all the words, get the Hebrew words and definitions, and then we're going to go through references. Okay, first word that I want to look at is just. Okay, just, all right, is H6662. All right, and it's Zadik. Okay, Zadik. All right, is the Hebrew word, and it says from H6663, it means just, lawful, righteous. Pretty straightforward. All right, Zadak is the primitive root. Okay, it says to be, causatively, make, right. Okay, in a moral or forensic sense, cleanse, clear self. All right, be just, do justice, be justified. Okay, justify self. All right, be righteous, turn to righteousness. Okay, all right, so that's what he mean by just. All right, so we just know what it actually means. Okay, what's going on. All right, next word we're going to look at is perfect. All right, perfect. A lot of people have problems with this word, okay, and really understanding what perfect means, because um, when he says Noah was perfect, all right, a lot of people are like, well, we can't be perfect. Of course, we can't be perfect, but there's a perfect, okay, to Yahuwah, all right, to the Most High, and the way He sees that is um, when we become right in His eyes. That doesn't mean that we don't sin, but that means that we repented and turning back to Him. That makes us perfect in His eyes. Okay. All right. So most people don't understand that, but here's the Hebrew word. It's H8549. Okay. Tamim. All right. From H8552. Okay. Entire. Literally, figuratively, and morally. Okay. Also, as a noun, integrity, truth, without blemish. Okay. Complete, full, perfect, sincerity, sound, without spot, undefiled, uprightly, whole. Okay, and it said again, literally, figuratively, and morally. Okay, I want to make emphasis on what we know before this. Okay, all right. Not only men were not just because they wasn't following the ways of Yahuwah then, but also, okay, they were Nephilim, okay, which were what? They wasn't. Yep. So when we think about that, we got to think about um um it wasn't something that he created and he wanted. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go a little bit further to H8552. All right. A primitive root to complete in a good or bad sense, literally or figuratively. Okay. Transitively or intransitively. Accomplish, seize, be clean, pass, past, consume, have done, come to an or make an end. Okay. Fail, come to the full, be all gone, be all here, be perfect, make perfect. All right, be spent, some, be show self, be upright, show upright, be wasted, full. Okay, so here, what I want y'all to, again, we're talking about perfect, and it says the primitive root word says complete. All right, complete. All right. As an adjective, it says having all the necessary or appropriate parts. Necessary and appropriate parts. Okay. We know in his eyes, perfect means being right with him as well, right? Doing everything that he wants you to do, right? But also on the physical sense. This is what I want people to really understand is having all the necessary or appropriate parts. So we're talking about physical, okay? Now, if something was brought into this world that he didn't make, okay? All right? Then that means that it is being added to or something was taken away from what he created. Okay? Does that make sense? To be perfect. All right. So what you want to think about is whole world was corrupt, not just morally, okay, all right, but also physically. And he's saying, I gotta get it written like last week when we said, he says, I'm not putting up with the flesh but for 120 years. And what we figured out is with the Nephilim, okay, they can live, of course, at times humans were living longer, but Nephilim were part angel, okay? Because when they died anyway, their spirit didn't leave this place, okay? Their body remained. So they were different from actual man, okay? So that was a corruption, right? It was a corruption. So what he wanted to do, because before Before the flood, he said that there was Nephilim, and then after the flood, there was still Nephilim a little bit after the flood. Okay? All right. And last week we talked about when the Israelites actually was promised their promised land, they had to go fight certain races, which were Nephilim races. And a lot of people have a lot of problems with the Old Testament because they're like, well, why the Most High have, his chosen people kill out all these people? Because they had the Nephilim blood in them. Okay? So with this being said, all right, understand what he was doing, okay? Not only because of the ones that wasn't just morally righteous, there was also a defect in the blood. Okay? All right. So again, complete. All right, it says have all the necessary or appropriate parts. Okay, so we're talking about something physical as well. All right. All right. First reference we're going to look at is what I'm going to go into real quick. Just these. All right, we're going to go into the just. All right, Job. All right, we're going to go into Job. And let me look at this one more time. And it says, Noah was a just man. Okay, just man and perfect in his generation. Okay, Job 12:4. And it says, yet my friends laugh at me, for I called on Elohim and expect an answer. I am a just and blameless man, yet they laugh at me. Okay? So, what is this saying? He's a just person because he has that faith. And they laughed at him because, like, why is he going to listen to you? Okay? All right? So, he's a just man. He don't care. He's going to ask, no matter what it is, he's going to ask first. Okay? All right? He was just. Ecclesiastes 7, chapter 7, verse 20. And it says, not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Okay? All right? So, again, he said Noah was perfect. So we have to understand what perfect means. But he's also saying that, all right, in his days, he was perfect. He was just and perfect. So that means everybody else wasn't looking to him, looking to Yah. Okay, so that's what this is explaining right here. Is Noah was just and perfect because he always, even when he sinned, because everybody sinned, right? Even when he sinned, he turns and go back, asks for repentance or whatever, what have you. Okay, all right. So that's just emphasis on him being just and emphasis on what's going on, okay, at the time. He says Noah was the only just and perfect man in his generation. Whole world at the time, known world at that time. Okay. All right. Ezekiel 14:20. And it says, as surely as I live, says sovereign Yah, even if Noah, Daniel, and Job were there, they would not be able to save their own sons and daughters. They alone would be saved by their righteousness. Okay, now this is giving you really saying that you have to be just for your own. Nobody can speak for you when it comes to the very end. Now, this was at the beginning. Okay, this is the first. Oh, I'm starting over. Okay, so therefore he had to repopulate this place, right? Okay, so with Noah and his sons, Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives, okay, they got to pass. When it comes to end times, what he said here, even Noah, Daniel, and Job, even if they were there, okay, they wouldn't be able to save their own sons and daughters. So this is what we got to think about at the end. You can't worry about, yes, I want Dixie to be with me, you know. But at the same time, my job is to train her and to bring her so she can be in the light to Yahuwah as a husband. That is my job. Okay. He says, I need to wash her and clean her and bring her up in his word. Okay. So she would be, have no blemishes before Yahuwah. That's the job of a man. Okay. So, so I'm supposed to do everything that I need to, but at the very end, I can't worry about Dixie. Because no matter what I do or what I say, it's going to get her in. It's going to be between her and the Messiah and Yahuwah. Okay? All right? All right? All right. Habakkuk 2 and 4. It says, look at the proud. They trust in themselves and their lives are crooked. All right? But the righteous will live by their faithfulness to Elohim. Okay? All right. Look at the proud. They trust in themselves. Okay? Their lives are crooked, but the righteous will live by their faithfulness to Elohim. All right. So that's talking about again now with Noah and now at the end. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go back and I'll read one or two. Let's see. I'll read one of these. Okay, Second Chronicles. This says perfect. Okay, this is a reference for perfect. Okay, and it says Second Chronicles 15 and 17 says, although the pagan shrines were not removed from Israel. Okay, talking about the place Israel. Asa's heart remained completely faithful throughout his life. Okay, so this is a time where this is after King David and King Saul. This is where the kings were not always doing, or they wasn't doing what they were supposed to. This is after the tribes got split up between the two main areas got split up. Okay, and when they fell off, it's a point where it's a few times where they came to try to repent, and Asa is one of the kings, or was he was either one of the kings or one of the priests. All right, and when they repent, they were supposed to tear down all the shrines and all the things of that nature. And it's saying even though he didn't do that, okay, he remained completely faithful throughout. Okay, most of the kings that did fully turn away, they got rid of all the shrines and all of them cleaned up, and didn't worship any other gods and have that in their kingdom or what have you. Okay, all right, and I'll do one more here, and it says, walking in close fellowship with Elohim. Then one day he disappeared because Elohim took him. All right. So this was actually, was this last week or the week before? This is talking about Enoch. Okay. Um, Enoch Enoch lived close with, walked with Yahuwah. He did the writings and things of that nature. And after he did what he needed to do on earth, Yahuwah took him. Okay, so that means that he was perfect in his eyes. He was righteous in his eyes, and he was one of only two people that he took. Yahuwah took. He took him, and he took Elijah. So they didn't die. Okay, two people didn't physically die. It was taken up by Yahuwah. All right. We're going to Genesis 6, verse 10. Okay. And it says, and Noah beget 3 sons. Okay. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. We're going to look at this here. All right. First, we remember that strong concordance that I talked about. H853. Okay, H853. That's the off. All right. I always talk about saying that that's a sign. Okay, between Yahuwah and what he owns, or Yahuwah and what he says is going to happen, and that's going to happen throughout time. Okay, this is that that concordance again. It says apparently contracted from H226 and the demonstrative sense of entity, properly self. All right, it says by generally, but generally used to point out more definitely the object of a verb or preposition. Okay, even or namely. All right. It says as such unrepresented in English. All right. Again, it's a signal. Okay, as a flag, beacon, monument, omen, prodigy, evidence, mark. Okay, sign or token. All right. So the mark of the beast. All right. So the mark of the beast is the mark of the devil. Right. All right. His sign off, okay, is the mark of Yahuwah. Okay, that means that I show everybody I stand with Yahuwah. Okay, all right. To go a little bit deeper again, this also means to consent. That means that you're consenting to the way He wants you to live, His way. All right. So anytime we see off, all right, that means that it's a sign of His doing, and it's something that's going to happen throughout time, or it's something that's important. Okay. All right. So, and it says, beget 3 sons. All right. And then it has that behind it. But then it says the names. It says Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Behind Shem, there's that off again. Go ahead. So, what you was just talking about, the mark of the beast and stuff. The mark of Cain. Okay. Is that like something? Is that relevant to this? Yeah, you can say. Well, I mean, Cain got a mark because he was the son of the serpent, because he sinned. He chose to sin. Okay, so in the Bible they reference to Cain. Don't be like Cain, because he was the first. You see what I'm saying? To deliberately sin. Okay, Eve, she was beguiled. She was tricked. Okay, and same thing with Adam. He was coerced. Right? Cain. Okay, one more thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was also reading this too. It says the seal of God. Can you kind of explain that? The seal is that relevant to this? That's what I mean. Yes, yes, the seal of God. Yes, the seal of God. I haven't physically got into that, but the first thing I think about is the 10 Commandments. Okay, they describe the 10 Commandments as a seal because it has His name. It has His. It has just like when you look at cash or you look at a coin, it has the name of what it is, the United States. Okay, it has its stamp, has the name, the seal, or the picture, or and its rules or something like that. So when it's talking about a seal, I can't really fully talk to you and inform you about it, but that's the first thing I think about. Okay. What I was reading, do you want me to tell you what I was reading? Go ahead. Okay, it says in the book of Revelation, God places a seal on His servants to mark them as belonging to Him. Yes. Well, that's it. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Yes. Yep. 100%. All right. So with that being said, okay, Shem. Okay, that means that Shem is important, and Shem is the lineage, okay, of Abraham. That's this. This is who Abraham come from, and this is where Abraham, then Isaac, and Jacob, and then the 12 tribes come out of Shem. Okay, so he put that there. All right. Real quick, let me go in. Yep, I talked about that. All right. All right, we're going to verse 11. All right, and it says, the earth also was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to 12. I'm going to put 12 and 11 and 12 together. And it says, and Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Okay. All right. We're going to go through the definitions real quick. All right. Go through the definitions real quick. We're going to look at corrupt. All right. The concordance is H7843. Okay. Concordance H7843. All right. Shakath. All right. Pay attention to this word because we're going to see it again. Shakath. Okay. Primitive root word to decay. All right. That is causatively ruin. All right. Literally or figuratively batter, cast out, corrupt, corrupter, corrupt thing, destroy, destroyer, destruction. Okay. Lose, mar, perish, spill, spoil, excuse me, utterly waste, waster. Okay. That's what corrupt means. All right. All right. Now, we're going to go in verse 11. It says, a part in verse 11, it says, also was corrupted before Elohim. Okay. And then in 12, it says, Elohim looked upon the earth. Okay. All right. So in verse 11, okay, it says, okay, the earth also was corrupted before Yahuwah. What does that mean? I know I'm going to ask this question, but I know y'all probably won't remember. What does before mean? Like when somebody says something rude in your face, it's before him, okay? Before him. So if I click on before, pineal, remember when I told y'all about the word pineal gland? Pineal means face. So it was in his face. He said he saw. So when it says before him, it says before him, he saw. Like in the, so here it says Elohim saw. Here it says was corrupt before Elohim. So it was in his face. Okay, so he saw the corruption. Okay, but then we look at verse 12 and it says Elohim looked upon the earth. Okay, upon. All right, we click on H7200 Ra'ah. All right, and it says to see. Okay, the main one that I'm looking at is it says to discern. Okay, so in 12 it said, and Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. So he saw, and then he discerned what he saw. Okay, all right. So something that I want y'all to to hang on to. All right. We're gonna go into the references. Let me see if there's any other that I want. We'll go into Elohim saw real quick because I mean this is something that we already know, but just for a reminder. But Noah found favor with Yahuwah. And that's saying that Yahuwah looked at everybody. Okay? Looked at everybody, but he saw that he had favor. He saw that he saw Noah and he had favor for Noah because he saw. Right? All right. Another one, Elohim saw or observed or discerned. Okay. I am going down to see if their actions are as wicked as I have heard. If not, I want to know. Okay, this is when Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, so he went down to discern. All right, what's going on. All right, so that's what he's observing. Okay, he's always looking. All right, now we're going to the reference of for all the flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Okay, so we're going to do a few of those. Okay, Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 through 5. Okay, and it says, in those days and for some time. So he's looking and discerning, but he's talking about the corruption. Okay, for some time after, giant Nephilites lived on the earth. For whenever the sons of Elohim had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. So that means violence. All right. When we hear heroes, we think of heroes, but that's not what he's saying here. And it says, Yahuwah observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. Okay, so this was last week what we talked about. So he looked at that and he said everything they thought and imagined was consistently and totally evil. Okay, so that's why we are where we are right now. All right, what we're talking about. Yes. Yep. All right. Genesis. When everything was ready, Yahuwah said to Noah, go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous. Okay. So we're looking at, he saw everybody else and he's about to destroy everybody else. Okay. He says all of the flesh. Okay, all of the flesh. All right. Second Peter 2 and 5, and it says, and Elohim did not spare the ancient world except for Noah and the 7 others in his family. Noah warned the world of Elohim's righteous judgment. So Elohim protected Noah when he destroyed the world of ungodly people with a vast flood. Okay. All right, 13. And it says, King James Version, it says, and Elohim said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is coming before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Okay, so he's telling you straight out, I'm destroying the earth. Okay, so why is he destroying the earth? Because of what did he just say? Violence. Okay, think about right now how much violence, rampant violence is going on. Like it's like never, I mean, I can't say never before, but right now it's just outrageous of all the things that's going on right now. Outrageous, okay? For violence. All right. All right. And he says, I will destroy. We're going to look at the word destroy, okay? 87843. All right. Shakath. Did we not just see this word? Shakath. We just seen this word. All right. What was this word? Shakath. That word, let me back out. That word was corrupt. It's the same word. Check this out. Okay, so we know we're gonna read this. Okay. It's the same word for destroy and corrupt. Check this out. So think about it. It says shakath. All right. Primitive root word, decay. So think about this literally. All right. He's talking about destroying the world. He's going to come in and destroy. But when you're sinning and going and living outside of his way, you're already decaying. To decay. All right. That is causatively ruin. You're ruined. So he's not only coming to destroy, you're already decaying because you're living outside of his way. Okay? Literally or figuratively, battered, cast out, cast off, corrupt, corrupter. Okay? Corrupt thing. All right? Destroy, destroyer, destruction. Okay? So it is the same word. So literally, when a lot of times we think, I put emphasis that, I feel like this is the end times and a lot of things are going on right now. But literally, all of us don't even need to worry about that. Really, we need to be worried about right now, because if we're not living in his way, we're already ruined. And if we die right now at this moment, we're done for. Okay? Because we are already, all right, we're already decaying. Okay? To decay. All right? But this is also to destroy. He says, I'm coming. I will destroy. That's something to think about. Okay. Like I said under here, it says, notice it is the same strong concordance number. So that means to go against Yah's word is to be corrupt, to be decayed or destroyed already. While we standing walking around. All right. All right, so now we went over perfect. All right, so we went over perfect already. Let's click back on perfect real quick. Tamim. All right, it says entire. Okay, the word that I'm looking for is complete. So if we're walking in his way, that means we're complete. But if we're not walking in his way, we're decaying. Does that make sense? All right, so that's how we have to look at things. It's right here, and he's very direct. All right. And it says we're going to go into the references here. The end. All right. It says the end of all flesh is come before me. All right. That's what we're looking at, those references. Oop. All right. And it's Jeremiah 51:13. And it says, you are a city by a great river, a great center of commerce. Okay. A great center of commerce. But your end has come. The thread of your life is cut. That sounds familiar. A city of great commerce. We're a country of great commerce. But really, the world is the world of great commerce. That's what this world is. All right. Last week, y'all wasn't here. Most of y'all wasn't here for last week, or the week before. And he put emphasis. He says, above all things, the merchants of the world are the worst or the most wicked, the merchants of the world. Okay. I did a video on what the devil, what Azazel, the angel, was taught to man. And it's everything. It's about commerce, it's about war and all that. And he was the one pointed out. There was other angels that did bad stuff, that showed bad things, but he was pointed out for teaching them metals and things of commerce, things of jewels and makeup and of those things of that nature. Okay. All right. So commerce is a very bad thing for us because we lose our way in it. Okay. All right. Um, Amos 8:2. What do you see, Amos? He asks. This is Yahuwah. He says, I replied, a basket full of ripe fruit. Then Yahuwah said, like this fruit, Israel is ripe for punishment. Israel is ripe for punishment. I will not delay their punishment again. Okay, this is when his people, his chosen people, wasn't living like him. And this was a day of Yahuwah when he came in and he says, okay, well, I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to scatter you out. Okay, think about that as the end. Okay, at the end, okay? This is not just going to be his people now, it's going to be everybody that's not following him, okay? And listen how he says, ripe fruit, okay? And what does they talk about ripe fruit? Mainly, they address grapes, okay? All right, grapes. So what you do with grapes? You smash them for wine. What does that grape juice look like? Blood, okay? They give that emphasis throughout the Bible, okay? So that harvest, because grapes, that harvest, okay, ripe for punishment, okay? So he's very deliberate and outspoken about it. 1 Peter 4:7 says, the end of the world is coming soon. Therefore, be earnest, okay, and discipline in your prayers. So at the end, he says, be earnest and discipline. All right, this is the end, okay? Like I know you like practicing shooting, but he says, be earnest with your discipline and prayers. That's something that will hopefully, if my phone don't go out on us, we'll get to. All right, we're going to field. Okay, I believe this filled with violence. All right. Yes, the earth is filled with violence. We're going to look at that reference there. All right. Genesis 6:4. All right. In those days, and for some time after, giants, Nephilims lived in the earth for whenever the sons of Elohim, and of course, so talking about the violence that they brought on the earth, okay? Talking about the violence they brought on the earth. Genesis 6:11 and 12. And it says, now Elohim saw that the earth had become corrupt, okay, and was filled with violence, okay? All right. Genesis 49:5. All right, and I kind of spoke on this, all right, talking about corrupt, and it says, Simeon and Levi, which is two of the sons of Jacob, okay, two of the sons of Jacob, all right. Simeon and Levi are two of a kind. Their weapons are instruments of violence, okay, talking about the corruption, all right. And then we got Hosea. Okay. Hear the words of Yahuwah. Okay. O people of Yasharal or Israel, Yahuwah had brought charges against you, saying, there is no faithfulness, no kindness, no knowledge of Elohim in your land. So they forgot them. They worshiping other people and they doing all kinds of other sins. You make vows and break them. You kill and steal and commit adultery. There is violence everywhere, one murder after another. So we're looking at these days. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump down to with, meaning with this reference is meaning it's going to die with the earth. Okay. Genesis 7:23. And it says Elohim wiped out everything living, every living thing on the earth, people, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky, all were destroyed. The only people who survived was Noah and those with him on the boat. All right. And then the earth, okay, destroying the earth, okay. And it says, let me go back real quick. It says, I will destroy them with, we just read that, and then I will destroy them with the earth. All right. So 2 Peter 3:6 and 7, it says, then he used the water to destroy the ancient world with a mighty flood. Remember that we talked about that, the flood before. Remember flood, okay? All right. Even though we are talking about the flood coming. And by the same word, the present heaven, remember this, the present heavens and earth have been stored up for fire. The present heavens and earth is stored up for fire. Okay. They are being kept for the day of judgment when he comes back. All right. When ungodly people will be destroyed. So I don't know if y'all heard of, but most people that's in church that heard that, he's going to bring in a new heaven and new earth. So he's telling you right here, okay? The heaven and earth have been stored up for fire. They are being kept for the day of judgment. So he's getting rid of all of it. When he says he's destroying it, he's getting rid of it. Okay? 2 Peter 3:10 and 12. But the day of Yahuwah will come as unexpectedly. This is why we need to be ready. The day of Yahuwah will come as unexpectedly as a thief. Okay? Then the heavens will pass away. There we go again, with a terrible noise, and the very elements, okay, themselves will disappear in fire. There we go again. And the earth and everything on it will be found to deserve judgment. Since everything around us is going to be destroyed like this, what holy or Kadash and godly lives you should live. Okay? Looking forward to the day of Elohim and hurrying it along. On that day, he will set the heavens on fire and the elements will melt away in the flames. Getting rid of everything. All right, they're not gonna really go into this in churches. People don't like to hear stuff like this. All right, going to verse 14. All right, and it says, "Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch." Okay. All right. So, first and foremost, again, it says the ark of gopher wood. Okay. Rooms shall thou make. All right. There's that concordance again. Okay. All right. So, with the being said, so remember there's a coordinate. So this here is significant. Okay. And then it says, and shall pitch it with and without. Okay. Pitch. What is pitch? All right. Tar. Inside and out. Make it waterproof. Okay. Well, let me go into it real quick. I should just went into it. Okay. This is significant. All right. How many of y'all heard of the Ark of the Covenant? Okay. Ark of Covenant. If you don't know what it is, it's a box. Okay. This is what the people are when they made the temple for Yahuwah in the wilderness. Okay. It's a special box that Yahuwah told them how to make. Okay. And it had cherubim, golden cherubim on it. It kept bread in there and certain things, the tablets in there and things of that nature. Okay. And it possessed, nobody could touch it. Okay. So they had to carry it with the pole. If you touched it, you will get struck, you will die, or plague or what have you. There's many stories about it of things in the Bible and things like that. So it's something special, okay, and powerful, okay. But we're going to look at the ark, okay, what the ark means, okay. The ark, Hebrew word is tabah, okay, and it says perhaps a foreign derivation, okay. And it says a box. So the ark, as we think of a boat, okay, a box. All right. So that's what tabah mean. Okay. Now we're going to go to rooms. All right, because that was a part of that where it had the H853, and it says let's look at rooms. All right. Khan. Okay. So Cain's real name, okay, is Canaan. Canaan. I'm saying it wrong. This comes from, or his name comes from this word, okay? And it says room, which is room, okay? It says contracted from 87077, all right? A nest, okay? As fixed, sometimes including the nesting, figuratively a chamber or dwelling, nest room, okay? And it says, okay, Canaan. All right, primitive root, to erect, to be used only as a dominative from H7064 to nest. Okay, that is build or occupy as a nest. All right. Then we have pitch. All right, kafah, primitive root. All right, to cover, especially with bitumen. Okay, bituminous tar. All right, um, comes from petroleum. It was a lot of, they had a lot of access to the tar. Okay, the tar holes and things like that. Figuratively, to expiate or condone. Okay, to cancel. All right, appease, make atonement, make atonement and atonement. All right, to make right. That's what atonement is. All right, cleanse, disannul. Okay, forgive. Okay, be merciful. All right. So what is this? What is these words saying already? I just told y'all about the Ark of the Covenant, right? So the ark, which is a boat, is a box, right? All right. You have a room, okay? You have a room where he wants you to reside in. That boat he wanted them to reside in pitch, okay? To cover, to protect them, to keep them safe. So that's already the ark, a prophecy of the Ark of the covenant within itself. Okay. All right. So this is showing that before that. Okay. So very important. That's just the definitions. We're going to look at pitch, shall pitch. Okay. Exodus 2 and 3. The reference, it says, but when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus, weeds, and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. Okay. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the weeds along the bank of the Nile River. What story is this? The story of Moses. Okay. His mother, they was coming, the Egyptians was coming to kill all the babies. All right. So she put him in a basket, and they called it an ark. Okay. Put him in the basket, covered it with pitch so it float, and she put him down the river. His sister followed the basket, and Pharaoh's daughter found him, and she kept him. Okay, so that's how Moses grew up as one of Pharaoh's sons. All right. So he was protected by the ark. All right. Yep. Yep. Shall make the ark. Okay. Another thing about this is, nope, I'm not going to do that yet. All right. Make an ark. I said, let's go to Matthew 24:38. And it says, in those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. Listen to this. We're talking about end times. People are going to be doing everything that they love doing when the world starts to fall apart. And what did he say about Noah? Noah went out and testified, hey, I'm building this boat. I need y'all to come, blah, 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 blah. He's saying, in those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. It's a too late point. All right. Luke 17:27. In those days, people enjoyed banquets, saying the same thing, enjoyed banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered in the boat. The flood came and destroyed them all. All right. All right. Those who disobeyed Elohim, 1 Peter 3, verse 20, those who disobeyed Elohim long ago, when Elohim waited patiently while Noah was building his boat. It took a couple hundred years. Only 8 people were saved from drowning in that terrible flood to build that boat. A couple hundred years. He was warning everybody about the judgment. So there's a too late point. All right, verse 15. All right, verse 15, and it says, and this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. Okay. All right. Verse 16, and it says, a window shall thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shall thou finish above it, and the door of the ark shall thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shall thou make it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna click on this real quick, and it says the ark represents in this verse as a sanctuary being built by the instructions of Elohim, like in the wilderness and temple. So when they was in the wilderness, Yahuwah gave them instructions to build this temple, to build his temple. And this was a tent temple then, okay? Just like he did then, he did with Noah and the ark. And just like he did those two times, he did with the physical temples. All right, he gave them instructions. All right, and let's I got a few verses. Ezekiel 41:16, and it says, were all panels with wood, as were the frames of the recessed windows. Okay, the inner walls of the temple were paneled with wood above and below the windows. So he's giving the instructions. He's telling them how. All right, Ezekiel 42 and 3. All right, and it says, one block of rooms overlaid with 35-foot width of the inner courtyard. Okay, another block of rooms looked out onto the pavement, all right, of the outer courtyard. Two blocks were built 3 levels high and stood across from each other. Okay, so he was very specific of how he wanted to do this. Okay, so that's really talking about the windows. Okay, all right. Now talking about the doors. All right. He talked about the doors. All right. And this is specifically talking about in this references. He says, I'll say put the doors on the side. Okay. But they're referencing when the doors close here. Watch this. Um, and it says, a male and female, and each Khan entered just as Elohim had commanded Noah. Then Yahuwah closed the door behind him. So once Yahuwah closed the door, who can open that door? Nobody. There is a too late. All right. So this ark, okay, is a protection zone. And he says, Luke 13:25, and it says, when the master of the house has locked the door, it will be too late. You will stand outside knocking and pleading. Okay, Yahuwah, open the door for us. But he will reply, I don't know you or where you come from. There's a too late. All right, verse 17. Chapter 6, verse 17, and it says, and behold, even I will bring a flood, okay, of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. Okay, there's another. That's going to happen again. So this is that. This is his doing. This is something that's going to happen again. Okay, that special word. Let's go into the concordance here. It says bring. Okay, and I pointed it out here. He's going to bring. All right, he's going to bring a flood. All right, let's see. Bring a flood. I'll just read one of these. 7 days from now, I will make the rain pour down on the earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights until I have wiped from the earth all the living things I have created. Okay. Let me go to a Job 22:16 real quick. They were snatched away in the prime of their life, the foundations of their lives washed away. Okay. So this is, he's going to bring that. All right. We're going to be all partying or whatever, blah, 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 if we're not ready. And he says the prime of their life is going to be snatched away. All right. All right. I'm going to go to 18. And it says, but with thee will I establish, here's that 8:5:3, my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark. Okay, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. Okay, all right. Covenant. What is covenant? All right, barith. All right, and it says in the sense of cutting. Okay, like. All right, a compact, because made by passing between pieces of flesh, confederacy. So making a confederation between one and another. Okay, all right. Confederate, covenant, a league, making a league between two. Okay, let's go in a little bit deeper. Bara. Okay, root word to select. So the covenant is making. He's selecting who he want to make that covenant with. Okay, to select. All right, all right. To feed also. To feed, to render clear. All right, so he's feeding to render. So feeding is like protection or providing. Okay, to render clear. Okay, all right, is protecting as well. All right, choose. Okay, calls to eat, manifest. Okay, all right. So he's making a covenant. He's choosing. All right, with making a confederacy with Noah. All right. All right. And it says, in the days of Noah, in the days of Noah, I'm going to read Matthew 24 and 37. And it says, when the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's days. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered the boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the way it will be when the Son of Man comes. All right. So established. Okay. He established the covenant. Okay. We're going to Genesis 9:9. All right. And he says, I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants. Okay. All right. He's confirming the covenant. All right. Genesis 9:11. And it says, yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will flood waters kill all living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth. Okay, that's his covenant with Noah. All right. Genesis 17:4. This is my covenant with you. I will make you the father of a multitude of nations. He's talking to Abraham there. Okay. He's going to be the father of nations. All right. So he makes his covenant. I'm going to read one more, and it says, I will confirm a covenant with you and your descendants after you from generation to generation. This is the everlasting covenant. Everlasting covenant. I will always be your Elohim and the Elohim of your descendants after you. That's talking to Abraham. Okay. Thou shalt come unto the ark. Okay. Thou shalt come unto the ark is the reference here. Genesis 7:1, and it says, when everything was ready, Yahuwah said to Noah, Go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth I can see that you alone are righteous. Okay, back Genesis 7:7. He went on board the boat to escape the flood, he and his wife and his sons and their wives. All right, Genesis 7:13. That very day Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and their wives. All right, we're going to go to, all right, Isaiah. All right, talking about going into the boat. All right, but also it says, go home. All right, go home, my people, and lock your door. Hide yourselves for a little while until Yahuwah's anger has passed. Okay, so this is later on, okay? When Israel was sinning, there's others that was following Yahuwah. The ones that was following Yahuwah, he says, go home, my people, lock your doors, hide yourselves for a little while until Yahuwah's anger passes. So he's telling us what we need to do here in the future. Okay? Go home, my people, lock your doors, okay? Hide yourselves for a little while until Yahuwah's anger has passed. Now, if we don't listen to that, then we're going against his will. Okay? This is important. This is important to know. A lot of us is going to want to go, well, I'm protecting 1 Peter 3:20. Those who disobeyed Elohim long ago, when Elohim waited patiently while Noah was building the boat, only 8 were saved from drowning in that terrible flood. Talking about going in there, closing the door, being safe in him. So when we go to our house, close the door, we're safe in him because we're listening to what he had said. Okay? All right. And it says, Peter, this is important right here. Peter, 2 Peter 2:5. And it says, and Elohim did not spare the ancient world except Noah and the 7 others in the family. Noah warned the world of Elohim's righteous judgment. So Elohim protected Noah when he destroyed the world and ungodly people with a vast flood. Okay. So the ark, he protected, okay? He protected Noah, all right? He protected Noah, all right? So I said right here, protect and destroy, all right? From and by flood, okay? The similarities of 2 Peter 2:5, and then Revelation 2:13 and 18, okay? So we just read 2 Peter. Now this is Revelations 2:13, 18 through 18. And it says, when the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman. The woman is Israel as a whole, the people, okay? The people that follow him at this time, okay? All right, pursued the woman who had given birth to a male child. That's the Messiah, the Mashiach, okay? But she was given 2 wings like those of a great eagle, so she could fly to a place prepared for her in the wilderness. There she would be cared for and protected from the dragon for a times and a half time. Okay? Close your door. Go into your house, close your door and hide. Okay? All right. That's a place he provided for us. He's telling us he's going to provide for us. Okay. He says, prepared for her. Okay. In the wilderness. Okay. There she would be cared for and protected from the dragon for a times and a half a time. Then the dragon tried to drown the woman with a flood of water that flowed from his mouth. But, and I'll go back to this. I'll go back up there. But the earth helped her by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that gushed out from the mouth of the dragon. And the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who kept Elohim's commandments and remained their testimony with Yahushua. Then the dragon took his stand on the shore beside the sea. Okay, so he's talking about waters. What does waters mean here? Huh? It is chaos, but all right, let's see. Okay, and it says, then the angel said to me, the waters where the prostitute is ruling represents masses of people of every nation and language. That's the waters. So what's going to be going on? What happens when we don't have power? What's going to happen? People are going to go crazy and people are going to be killing people for food and all of this. Okay? So waters, the flood, so he's not going to destroy the world with actual water anymore, but he's using the reference of water. Okay? He's describing people of every nation and language. Go in the house, lock the door, and hide. He's telling us what we should be doing. Okay? Psalms 18:4. The ropes of death entangled me. Floods of destruction swept over me. Okay, let me go in here some more. Okay, you quiet the raging oceans with their pounding waves and silence the shouts of the nations. Okay, let me go to Isaiah. Therefore, Yahuwah will overwhelm them with a mighty flood from the Euphrates River, the king of Assyria, and all his glory. The flood will overflow all the channels. Okay, he's referring to as people. Okay, for Yahuwah will send a mighty army against it. Okay, like a mighty hailstorm and a torrential rain. They will burst upon it like a surge flood and smash it into the ground. Okay? Mighty army. All right? Isaiah. And it says, in the west, people will respect the name of Yahuwah. In the east, they will glorify him, for he will come like a raging flood tide, driven by the breath of Yahuwah. Okay? Even though he's sending this flood, even though the flood and destruction is coming, he's sending this flood. Okay? All this chaos, he's going to send. He's sending it, but it's the works of the devil, because he said this is judgment. He's going to allow the devil to come and cause destruction. He's sending this flood for the end times. Okay? All right. So that was the comparison of 2 Peter and Revelations. Is he's talking about a flood then, and the end times he's talking about a flood, but flood are the people that's being used by the devil. Okay? In the chaos that wasn't living, because if they lived in the way of Yahuwah, what would they be doing during the end times? What would they be doing? And locking the door. But it's going to be chaos. Okay? So the house is going to be our ark. Okay? I am gonna stop there because I want to get the last of it is very important, but I don't want this to go out. But so far with this, we got quite a few more verses left, and I'm going to finish it next week. But so far, again, this is really important because a lot of people, when they think about the end times, they want to go to the end of the book, end of the Bible, and read Revelations. Okay, and Revelations is really, really confusing. Really confusing. You're not going to get all your answers from Revelations. Actually, you're going to get most of your answers, okay, because most people are not going to go as thorough as I went here. But you're going to get your answers in the books of the prophets. They talk about the end times. And then when you know about the end times from the prophets, you can read Revelations and then piece it together, Revelations. But like I was telling Dixie the other day, is really, if people really read the Bible from the beginning all the way up to the flood, it's telling everything that you need to know in the first book of what we should be doing. Okay, it don't go deep into, which we did touch on a little bit, deep into the actual commandments and all that, but it tells us that we need to follow his way. Okay, a lot of people are like, well, he's just gonna forgive us and we can live a certain way, blah 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 blah. But he is specific. He is specific in the first book, and we're not even close to being finished with Genesis. Okay, we're not even to Abraham yet. Okay, so this is looking to the future of the day of Yahuwah. Okay, he says, those who obey me and listen to what I tell them, okay, all right, I'm going to cover them, just like the ark. The ark, he said, go in there, build a room. That nest is where you're going to reside in me. Okay, you reside in me, and I'm going to cover that room. I'm going to protect and provide for you there. Wait for a times and a half time before my anger is over. I mean, until my anger is over. Okay, so that's very important. Most people are going to be trying to do things and take things in their own hands at that time. And what's that's going to end up? That's going to end up being destruction for you trying to take things in your own hand. Okay, but because people do not read the full Bible, later on they do not read. If they do read the Bible, it's just the New Testament. Okay, they don't read the Old Testament, they would never know. They have no idea. Like I said, most of y'all didn't know what the Ark or heard of the Ark of the Covenant. So if you don't even know that, so much that we need to know. Okay, and the Old Testament have all of it in it. Okay, and you can't understand the New Testament unless you have the Old Testament. So he says, go in your house, go in the ark, close the door, hide yourself, wait till my anger is over.